Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. I hope everyone had a great weekend. If I missed you in the members live, you can go back and watch it. It was a lot of fun. Didn't do the show Friday morning, like I was saying, because was waiting on the hearing that took place that afternoon, and boy, did it. So I hope everybody stayed cool this weekend. I know I talked to a lot of you in Discord over the weekend. Some of you had rain and a kind of a cool front. You're very lucky because we did not. We did not. It was very hot. Let's see who's in here. Gaelic Girl, hello. Katrina, good morning. Sharon, good morning. Hello, Uli. Fun to ski. How are you? Good morning, Big T. Magoo. How you doing, Magoo? Preschool Granny. Aggie. There's Outlaw. Let's see. Let me grab my glasses. I should be better prepared, and eyewear is only part of it. Do you agree? There we go. Clean them too. Let's see. Pat K. She said, been water in the garden. That's our Pat. She's our gardener. Hello, Muffin Top. How are you doing? Hope everybody's doing good. Hello, Mary. True Crime with Shannon. Bailey. Lindsay from Oregon. Hello. Hello, Anna D. Carla Jean. How are you? I've missed you. Hello, Bonnie. Well, I don't know where you guys are with the Dylan Rounds case, how well you've been keeping up. It has certainly been a freight train of misinformation, drama, and the one that stayed under the radar. Who is the suspect? That would be Jim. So the woman of the hour is backstage, Lauren D. Ellen. She has done some amazing investigative journalism. In court, in person. She got great footage when Dylan's mother, Candace, was speaking to the mainstream media. We're going to bring her up and see how she's doing. Good morning, Lauren.
Hello. Yes, it was a busy day on Friday.
I can just imagine. So before I go through comments from the last show, I'm going to try to get everybody up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
I know that in every case, one way or another, sometimes it's huge, sometimes it's a little disruption on the side, but there's always some little side circus going on of gossip, drama, family fighting, fundraising. There's always something going on. In some cases, like Summer Wells and like Dylan, the side circus overshadows or tries to, we don't let it here, what's really going on. Okay, so as we know, the PI, whether he talked to people via Facebook or he talked to them on the phone, he had arrows pointing in a lot of different directions. People were going back and forth. Is this a hate crime? We had cross-dressers brought up, grooming, adult grooming, all kinds of crazy stuff. And what it comes down to is somebody that was really hiding in plain sight, yet staying under the radar, is the suspect. Do you want to elaborate on that, Glorin?
Well, it when I went to court and let's see, I think it was on Tuesday. They said in the I didn't get a chance to see the charging documents at that time because they hadn't been published. But one thing that struck me then at that time was that the judge asked, "Are there any other charges?" And the federal prosecutor said, "No." Or I think he asked about state charges and said, "No, we expect the grand jury to deal with that tomorrow." And so I was going, "Oh, we've got a grand jury involved." And so, I'm going, that's huge because they're going to be taking a look at anything that's associated with this. And so then the next day came out about Chase Venstra being arrested. And so that was obviously.
Now, hold on before we confuse anybody. He had been in custody for a while on warrants or a
Yes, Chase Venstra, Robert Aviles, and James Brenner were all under arrest for other charges. And Robert Aviles is in Elko County. I think that he was extradited from Utah. And some say that's because they didn't want to have him in the same jail system as James Brenner, because sometimes.
That's very telling. That's very telling.
There's a few interesting things on the that I learned from court. And then you have Chase Venstra, who is being held in Weber County. People say Weber County, and that's how it should be pronounced, I think, historically, for the name. It's a Welsh name, and how they pronounce it over there. But this is Utah. This is we've got local pronunciations of things, just like any community does. And so it's Weber County. We've got a mining town named Eureka. People would see it and say Eureka. We've got near Zion National Park, we've got Hurricane. People say hurricane. You know who is a local and who isn't by how they pronounce it. So
you can always tell who's from out of town when they start talking about, local communities nearby. So I'm going to read the update that Box Elder gave us. This was last Thursday. Okay. And this gives us kind of a foreshadowing as to what happened in court on Friday that Glorin will fill us in on. Hold on. Okay. So joint press release came out on July 7th. During the course of this investigation, I'm so glad they put this out because there was so much chatter about all the arrests. Of course, we talk, we communicate. This is a commentary channel. We're thinking all of this roundup, they could all be involved with Dylan. They explain this. During the course of this investigation, multiple persons have been interviewed by the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office, the FBI, and other assisting agencies. Multiple arrests have been made for unrelated warrants and crimes that have been discovered during this process. And boy, was it. Pretty much everybody they talked to they were sold some jail time. While Dylan Rounds was not located early on in the search effort, the investigation focused on the possibility of Dylan being the victim of a crime. The current totality of information gathered from the many interviews and searches, along with the analysis of both physical evidence and forensic data, has identified James Brenner as a suspect. All right? Brenner is currently being held in the Weber County Jail. Thank you for letting me know that, Glorin. On unrelated federal firearms charges. No criminal charges have been filed specifically regarding the Dylan Rounds case. This investigation is not complete and remains active. Law enforcement investigators are continuing to work to locate Dylan and find answers. At this time, no further information or comment related to this criminal investigation will be released. Okay, so then they give the phone numbers if you have any, and they're also the banner at the bottom. There's the phone number, any information to call them. So what they're saying is don't read into, it's not a sideshow, it's real investigative work. They've got these warrants on these people, put them in jail. They got to make it right. Whatever they did, they've been running. But James is a suspect. James is the suspect right now.
Yes, an interesting thing is that he is named as such in the court documents that were submitted to the court for starting the federal criminal proceedings against him. And to me, that's huge because it's another case. It's unrelated. It's about Dylan. They're talking firearms, and they're naming him a suspect in the disappearance, and that's really unusual for, in my opinion, for them to be naming him, because they they don't want to do anything that might be prejudicial. And so that was really interesting to me, that uh, and the county hadn't issued their statement yet about him being a suspect. So the first news was actually from the release of the court documents.
And we are not going to go through every part of what was released by the FBI. I do have a couple of selected paragraphs we'll talk about. But first, let's do some comments from the last show. You in?
Yes.
All right. From the last show about Dylan, Teresa said, hope he sings like a bird to the feds. Don't think he's going to have any choice. Of course, he has representation. It's either he is going to cooperate or he's going to be in front of a jury of his peers. He could make it easier on himself, but he is a criminal. At this point, I don't think they can go in and just shake him up one side and down the other, because he is represented. What says you, Lauren?
Yeah. I don't see him being sensible at this stage. I think that he's going to have to wait till charges are out there on homicide and so forth, and all the evidence come in on that before they start thinking, gee, do we really want to go to trial? Do we want to take a plea deal kind of situation? Because most cases don't go to trial. It seems that most of them end up being settled. There's been some big cases that I've seen where I expected them to go to trial, and then there's an announcement that, oh, they pled guilty because they didn't want to get the death penalty, and so better to take the plea deal, which takes the death penalty off the table.
Is there the death penalty in Utah? Is it regularly used, or is it just on the books? I'm in Oklahoma.
It's on the books. It doesn't get used that often because most of the time they will plead guilty, get life in prison because they don't want to go there, and so it's usually as a bargaining chip most of the time. If you want to play hardball, then you can face the ultimate consequence. So,
I just never know. Death penalty is brought up in every case. Every case. People say, hope they get the death penalty. Hope they get the death penalty. And of course, we're all collectively saying, yeah, they deserve it. Some states, not on the books. Some states it is, but hasn't been used since like 1960 something. I'm in Oklahoma, so if they say death penalty, they're getting the death penalty. So I was wondering about Utah. I've heard they still use the firing squad there. Is that true?
They took the firing squad off of the table, and then they recently reintroduced it because of the problem with the drug manufacturers not wanting to supply their products for use in an execution. And there's also been some reports of botched executions. So if the person gets the death penalty, they are given the option: do you want lethal injection or do you want the firing squad? So, but if if the medicines aren't available to them, then they get the firing squad by default. And quite frankly, I think I would choose the firing squad, because I watched a press conference after the last execution in Utah, which was a firing squad, and it was very quick. It was very efficient, and it was instantaneous. And you know, um, the issue of is lethal injection. Sometimes they have issues, and that's not instantaneous. There's no question about the firing squad being instantaneous.
Yeah, I can send you a couple of cases in Oklahoma where it was not instantaneous. The lethal injection. No, 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 no.
Well, I'm a
Bullet's
needle
gonna get it
phobe. I'm a needle phobe, and I'm a tough stick, and so to me, the trauma of getting an IV inserted, uh, it gives me a lot of problems. It's like, I don't have to do anything for the firing squad. I just have to sit in the chair, and it's over.
Yeah, but case in point, it's pretty easy not to get the death penalty. You just
Yeah,
don't hurt anybody.
yeah, don't go killing anybody and you won't get it.
You'll be okay. That's one problem you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Michael said, I think it was just one person. Been a lot of talk. On Facebook, even in our own Discord, people saying he had to have had help. He had to have had help. Let's see him. This was put out. There's his stats right there. James Brenner. Okay, intake date, June 20th. Gender, male. They didn't get his eye and hair color. Oh,
Well,
terrible.
they blew a lot of things, because he's not any 190 pounds. 5'1". I think he's a little taller. I think that he's my height, 5'3", maybe possibly an inch or two taller.
Okay. So
He's
they're saying with those stats, I guess, he would have to have help. Not because he's short and maybe needs to lose a few pounds, but Dylan is much taller than him. And it would seem that Dylan could really fight him off.
well, he's I think 59 years old, and
9, Dylan's 19.
yeah, and he is, and that's not an issue, because I've got a friend who is um 61, and he has chased down bad guys and apprehended them. He's chased them for blocks, and they end up giving up, and he frog marched them back for the police to come and get. There was another time, I had a house fire 5 years ago this month, and while I was displaced, um, some people were helping themselves to the possessions in my shed and in my backyard, the bicycles and so forth. And I wasn't aware there was a problem, and we were over. He wanted to check something out, and I wanted to measure windows for curtains. And I was standing in the front yard, and I saw some movement through the branches of tree, and I see one of my bicycles going along the property line. And this homeless guy was taking bike, and he said, "Oh, I thought it was abandoned. I saw it, and thought it was abandoned. No, my lot is 50 feet wide and 220 feet deep. There's no way he saw the bicycle from the street in the backyard. That's just impossible." And so, he was saying, "Well, I'll pay for it." And my friend is saying, "Okay, well, you give her $25 and it's yours." And so, "Well, I don't have it on me." And he's kind of backing away, and he climbs over the little 2-foot tall brick fence separating the neighbor's property, and climbs over the fence so that we're both on my neighbor's property, and he's trying to make a runner for it. And my friend, he was a wrestler in school, and he gets him into a wrestling hold. And he says, well, call 911. So I'm calling 911, and he's struggling, and the guy's trying to get away. He's got him in the wrestling hold, and I look at him and go, he's going to get worn out before the police ever get here. So I put my foot on his butt and pushed him to the ground, and then I sat on his pelvis so that he couldn't get up. And my friend changed the wrestling hold, and he was biting my friend, and I'm on with 911, and they're saying, well, what does he look like, and what is he wearing? So I'm sitting on top of him, and I'm pulling the stuff out of his pockets in case he's got a weapon and if he breaks free that he can't go for the weapon. And so it was kind of a surreal moment. And he's 61, and he's wrestling bad guys to the ground, but this guy is 250 pounds and 5 foot, 5'3", 5'4", maybe. And there's no way that you've got an athletic young man in good condition. You've got an elderly guy who is not in good condition.
Yeah, and I don't think it's so much him being 59. It's more of the, how, athletic and agile is he? Because we're talking about something that would take a lot of strength and energy to do. Because trust me, when I go to the gym, there's people 20, 30 years older than me that could whip my butt. Trust me.
Well, it's as I say, my friend. He's athletic, and he chases down bad guys. He's done citizens arrests when we were in Wyoming, and he encountered somebody who was walking out of Walmart with a few $100s worth of steaks and so forth, and chased him down.
He's a brave dude, because they say all the time, whatever thing they're taking is not worth your life, because you don't know if they've got a knife, they've got a gun, they're already not right in the head, they're running off with something that's not theirs. So like I said, it's not so much the age, it's the fact that he doesn't appear, just from what little we know, to be athletic, agile, you know what I mean? The strength to do something like this. But Michael left a comment saying he thinks it was just him. I don't know. I'm not going to be surprised if there is not an accomplice. I'm not.
Well, you have Chase Venstra, who's been named a person of interest.
There you go.
So, and somebody said Robert Aviles has been named a person of interest, but I haven't been able to confirm that.
I haven't seen that anywhere. I have not seen that anywhere.
So
I've seen that Chase is a person of interest and James is a suspect.
Yes. Yeah.
And James being a suspect, that's very uncommon, I'm going to say, in cases. I don't know how many cases you follow, or this one,
I've been following.
I bet a lot. So
I've been following true crime since Ted Bundy was patrolling the streets of Salt Lake City and Provo, Orem, on up the Wasatch Front. So
as well as we do, that for them to come out of the chute and say this is a suspect, that's very different than, person of interest is one thing, or sometimes they don't say anything at all. I mean, like Harmony Montgomery, they're holding her father, but they have not come out and said he's a suspect in her disappearance. Now, we can throw a dart at the wall, and I bet we hit the bullseye that he is. It's just odd. But, I mean, every jurisdiction does things differently. Two Boston moms, I put her comment on the screen. She said, in my opinion, I think Dylan went to the so-called gate and Jim confronted Dylan and something happened there or at that shed. Everybody's leading back to that area, and basically an argument got out of hand?
Um,
I say everybody, most.
yeah. There's I kind of had a theory of um maybe it was at the gate, but I don't think so because mob crew has been out there searching with drones intermittently when they can get out, and they ran into the FBI there at the when they were searching, and they had a conversation, and they aren't at liberty to discuss um, some of the things that they learned talking to the FBI, but they did say that um, they had a processing the grain shed, forensics team, and that something large was hauled away on a trailer as evidence.
I heard about that and I wondered what the something large was. But we
I
just read in the letter that they've processed forensic data. And most importantly, as of right now, certainly not more important than Dylan, but they haven't found Dylan yet. Physical evidence. They have found something that has made James a suspect.
well, I'm going. It could be a piece of equipment, some farm equipment or something that has blood splatter evidence on it, or it could be even the trailer that he was squatting in, because it was described as a trailer. I can't remember if they said a flatbed trailer or just a trailer. I need to go back and look at that, but to me it could be anything large and bulky up to the trailer. So
Yeah, I'm very curious as to what it is. Carla said, just catching up, just wondering if local law enforcement is taking the case seriously. Very serious. They have a suspect in custody, and the FBI is in charge of the investigation. I know there's been some frustration, people wanting to go out and search like they did in the beginning, drones and things like that. Several people have been shooed off. But if the FBI has, like, we've got it, that's really all the answer you need.
well, there was I had heard that, and I was going, well, that's really strange that they called off the public search, but then I can't remember what channel it was. They were saying that they were doing some scanning in the area using laser technology, and you can get some really interesting data from some of that. I watch a program on archaeology, and the things that they're able to do, and the data that they're able to do, it's just phenomenal. And so they said they didn't want people there while they were scanning with these lasers. And so I can understand that. And I know Mob Crew was out further afield with their drones.
And that makes perfect sense because they're trying to get something done. And the more cooks in the kitchen, the bigger the mess. I don't understand why this would be offensive to anybody when they're like, we're working on this. They shouldn't tell us what they're doing. They shouldn't. Two Boston Moms has a question for you. How far is the shed from the gate?
I haven't heard that, but I would say, couple 100 yards maybe. It just kind of eyeballing from the aerial shots that we've seen.
Okay. And our last comment I have highlighted from the last show, Alex says, you guys are so naive. No, Alex, nobody is naive here to the evil ways of the world. We are talking about an arrest made by the FBI. No naivety here. I'm telling you that they have a suspect. What is naive about that? If you're offended that people are not going to entertain these rumors and things like that anymore, then you're the one that's naive. The FBI has made an arrest and named a suspect. Am I losing my mind? What is naive about that?
Well, I think that they're referring to the rumors about a relationship with Kurt and Dylan, and I've heard conflicting things on that. I really don't see it. Um, if there was a relationship, it's only of interest insofar you have to look at the person who is closest to the victim, and if it was a gay relationship, or if somebody thought it was a gay relationship and it wasn't, was it a hate crime?
But why would James be in jail and named a suspect because he had some relationship with Kurt? See, things have to make sense for me before I go way out into left field and say, well, maybe that's what it is. Kurt's not in jail. Jim
I don't see
officially
it
has
as
been
related.
named a suspect.
If say, okay, there was a case in Wyoming where there was a college student from the University of Wyoming who was murdered because he was gay, and it was a hate crime.
Are you talking about Matthew Shepard?
I can't remember the name.
That's a very, 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 very famous hate crime.
Okay.
I mean, maybe if James comes out and he says that was his motive, we look at it then. I think it's kind of hurtful right now, considering they have a suspect in custody, to say James did this because of. The motive will come out. And
sometimes you don't get a motive, but and the thing is, I could see a case of where you have somebody who thinks that somebody is gay, they're not gay, they act upon that and do a hate crime, and turns out they were misinformed and they weren't gay, but that may have been the motivation behind it. So it I don't see. I know that Chase Venstra seemed to be, what I'm hearing is that he was the one who was telling everybody that Kurt was gay. So,
but then I guess, see, I think Kurt is being deceptive. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know the guy. I don't know his life. Something about what I have heard him say doesn't sit right with me. No surprise there. No surprise there. I don't think when Dylan went out there, these people had his best interests at heart. I don't think even a one of them. I don't mean his family. I'm not talking about his family. The guy in jail, that'd be one. Chase, that'd be one. Robert, that'd be one. Kurt, that'd be one. His brother, that'd be one. These just don't seem like salt of the earth people to me.
No.
No.
Kurt, I think that there's some shady dealings going on with the bar, possibly being used to move drugs or stuff that's being, stolen merchandise, something like that, or I don't know. There's something shady going on with the bar.
I agree. I agree. I definitely agree.
You can't run a business on one day a week.
But see, then I hear that they're open every day except Sunday. I'm just like, well, what is it? Is it a front for some sort of illegal activity? They've rounded everybody else up. I wouldn't be surprised if that bar is just totally shut down in a few weeks, if that's truly going on.
There's, to me, I when I heard the one day of the week thing, I was going, money laundering operation.
Drugs. I heard drugs.
Well, it doesn't seem that there's any indication of any large scale production happening, but they could be getting shipments out of Mexico or something. So there's something really shady about that bar.
It's real shady. Two Boston Moms has been doing her studying, her research, and her homework, as she has got all the comments today. She said, also, with $100,000 reward out there, I think if one of these shady characters knew something, they would crack. We're talking about $100K, guys. We're not talking about some $500 reward. I think it was one person that hurt Dylan, and that is Jim. That's where I'm leaning to right now. And also, bet your bottom dollar Jim is not going to go down for this by himself. If anybody else was involved, he's going to spill that.
Well, I don't think that he's going to spill, but I think somebody has spilled on him. And I've got reasons for that, because in court on Friday, they had a sidebar, and when they came back from the sidebar, they continued to talk about procedural issues, and the subject of discovery came up, which is the defense's right to get all of the evidence that the prosecution has. And the prosecution said, we've got this and this. We would like to redact the name on one person for, their safety. And so who is this redacted person, and how do they fit into this equation? Now, in some ways, I kind of think it might be Robert Aviles, because he seems to be the least involved of the three that we hear about. It could possibly be somebody else altogether, but there is a the reason I think it might be somebody else is because Robert Aviles might be a little too obvious, and it may be that there's somebody who's behind the scenes, who's talking and providing them with information, and they're afraid of witness tampering,
retaliation. Well, let's look at that real quick before I get to the clip. Here we go. So this is just part of what the FBI released. The defendant, who is James, was squatting on property belonging to SHNRI. Do your research. That is adjacent to DR, which is Dylan Rounds. Dylan Rounds was reported missing on May 30th, 2022, and his whereabouts are unknown. The defendant, that's James, is known to have had contact with DR and is a suspect in DR's disappearance. Make no bones about it. They're not saying a suspect in some shitty meth ring or him stealing something from him. He is a suspect in DR's disappearance. A search warrant was executed on the defendant's trailer, revealing black powder firearms equipment. DH was interviewed by FBI and admitted that the defendant asked him to hold black powder firearms and a .22. The .22 is what got him. The defendant hand-delivered the rifles to DH, which is Don, and asked him to hold them for him. So there's several initials there. SH, RI, we know Dylan Rounds, and then DH, which is Don. I don't see any Chase in there anywhere.
No, because that wasn't who was the weapons were being given to. Mm-hmm. And so as far as the federal weapons charge, it doesn't involve Chase, but I'm pretty sure he's involved.
He's involved in something.
He's just not involved in the handing the weapons over that he wasn't supposed to have. So that's
what it says. They're basically talking about the weapons, but it does say it's not just about the guns. That James, it doesn't say James, that the defendant, who is James, is a suspect in the disappearance of DR as we know, is Dylan Rounds. Let me get to this clip real quick. This is from the news, and then we're going to get to your footage and talk about court on Friday. You ready, girlfriend?
Sure. Go for it.
Good evening. We begin tonight with new information in the ongoing search for a Box Elder County teenager. We've learned about a second person of interest in the case.
Yeah, this comes just 24 hours after we first reported a suspect had been named in Dylan Round's disappearance. News specialist Matt Rascone joined us live right now with more from investigators and from Dylan's family. Matt?
Yeah, Mike and Deanie, from the start, Dylan Round's family has said that he did not just walk away from his farm. Last month, the sheriff's office announced it was a criminal investigation. Today, that investigation led them to a family friend who's now a suspect.
The focus of the family has been just finding Dylan.
Nearly 6 weeks into the search.
We beat that desert to death.
Still no sign of Dylan Rounds.
It's been 40 days of hell.
But for the first time, investigators have named a suspect. 58-year-old James Brenner, who also happens to be Dylan's closest neighbor in the remote desert area of Lucin near the Nevada border.
Every little piece of it.
Now, they said 58 years old. The screenshot I put up a second ago said he's 59. Not that a year's a big difference, but how old is this dude? How much does he weigh and how tall is he? They don't show a picture of him. Do you see? I mean, I'm about to put my head in the oven.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have some firm facts on this.
Goodness.
Information we get, you hold it so tight and you hope so badly it's going to lead to something.
Dylan's mom, Candace Cooley, says the family is acquainted with Brenner. At one point, he lived in a trailer on their property, helping Dylan bale hay.
Didn't know the man real well, but never had any reason for alarm.
The sheriff's office says interviews, evidence, and forensic data led them to Brenner, who is currently being held in jail on unrelated federal gun charges.
Whether or not they're the ones we want to hear, we want the answers.
Just days before Dylan was last heard from on May 28th, he had what family describes as a strange encounter with a man. The sheriff's office says that man is a person of interest in the case, and like Brenner, he's also facing unrelated federal gun charges.
We are doing everything we can to bring our son home.
For now, the family is asking the public to stop searching for Dylan on the ground and let federal and local authorities investigate.
And there is nothing wrong with that at all, to let the investigation unfold and them do their thing. People are clutching pearls. Why does the family not want him found? They do. They do. They don't want it messed up. They don't want it messed up.
Sometimes they've got other reasons. When I was working as a search volunteer on the Lori hacking case, they were out every day for, can't remember, it seems like it was like for 20 days or something, but it was probably shorter. And I'd go in every day, go out on searches. I knew the first day this was a murder. This wasn't a body. This wasn't a missing person who's out there injured somewhere, because I fell in step with a person from Search Dogs, and he said that they had 9 search dogs out, went over the vehicle. She supposedly went jogging, and no, she never got out of that car. And so I found out, I'm going, okay. Then I get confronted by a reporter on the way out and say, wanting to interview me for the news. And they says, oh, you'll be back tomorrow. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to say anything about the fact that this is a really shady situation. and she was never here, and I go, split second thinking, well, wherever we search is one place she's not. So um, we don't want the search effort decreasing because they hear that it's likely a criminal case instead. And so I say, well, we'll see how my feet feel. And the brothers went and visited the husband, who had a mental breakdown and was taken to the the Neuropsych Institute up at the University of Utah, and they confronted him and got him to confess to them that he had killed her and put her body in the dumpster, and knowing the dumpster was going to be emptied that morning at his workplace, and that she was out at the dump. And so the family called off the search the next day, saying that it was too dangerous, and people were getting heat prostration and so forth, and they didn't want anybody getting hurt or injured or anything like that. But the real reason was, there's no reason to look for her because she's in the dump. And so it was, I think, a couple of days later when it came out about him being under arrest, and that they're searching the dump now. And that was another similar situation with Dylan. The car that she was driving that was left at the trailhead was seat was pushed way back, and she was really short, so she wouldn't be able to reach the gas pedal. And so and here we've got Dylan as a tall guy, and the seat's way forward. Can't, the last person to drive it couldn't reach the gas pedal. So we've got
I kind of have a theory on that. Hang on, JBS. Does this have to do with Dylan, or I'm so confused? Yeah, we're talking about
sorry.
Dylan.
Well, yes, I'm just citing the example of another reason why you might have the search called off, and some interesting parallels to Dylan regarding the vehicle. So
So it was noted very, very early on, like one of the first things I heard about this case was about the seat being scooted all the way up. Okay, say he's 190 pounds. That's all we have to go on. You say he looks heavier. Some people are like, I think he's a little lighter than that. I don't know. They're saying 190 pounds. If he's 200, 220, 250, he still couldn't fit in that truck and squeeze behind if the seat's all the way up. Seems to me that James just forgot to put the seat back.
Yeah, you have a crime, and they're kind of have their adrenaline pumping. They're thinking about, oh, I've got to get rid of this, I've got to get rid of that, and they forget little things.
Sure.
And so
the seat is a big, big thing, but he, like you said, there's no perfect crime, and what do they say? They forget 1,000 things.
Sometimes, yeah. But he is some of the things say are putting him at 235 pounds, and I would say that's a lot closer to the case, because I would put him in the 230 to 250 range.
Well, you've seen him. We haven't seen him.
I've seen him twice. And
I almost wonder if what they pulled up when they put out 5'1", 190 was from a previous arrest.
That's a possibility, because that's totally off in weight and height. I mean, we've heard some reports of him being 42 inches tall or 42 feet. You know, it's like there's some some major issues with somebody's record keeping, and so
Major issues.
yeah.
Should have gotten some new stats on him.
It's just a puzzle, and we're just slowly adding little tiny pieces, and hopefully we finish it and we find out what happened to our son.
That is the hope, of course. The sheriff's office is still building their case. No charges for the suspect in this case, but he is expected in court here on unrelated charges. And the sheriff's office tells me they are still no closer to actually knowing where Dylan is right now. Mike and Didi.
It's got to be so hard. I hope that family can get some answers, Matt.
Okay, I really think they will find him. I do. Whether it's James Cracks or somebody, he's talked to someone.
Do you have a middle name on James?
Let me look. They just have it as just James Brenner. That's what they have.
Okay.
And they just call him the defendant and everything.
I believe I've got him here on My Life. I've heard him mentioned in association with Las Vegas before. This one has also lived in Ogden, Utah, and he's got a middle initial of B and is listed as a birth date of December 18th, 1962, and is 59 years old.
Okay, and we just had a comment saying he's 59 right now, and I think she said in December he's 58 right now. In December he'll be 59.
Yeah.
There we go. We have another mystery. How old is the guy? How much does he weigh? How
he would be 60 come December, because 62 to you know, it's got to end in a round number that is a 0. So he's 59 now.
Makes sense to me. So that, I mean, the media could have misspoke. Frank, I love this comment. Jim did the crime. I don't love what happened. Just where he's thinking. Jim did the crime, called in Chase for the cleanup. That makes sense to me. 2 Boston moms, before we get to talking about the hearing, has another question. Do you know if that was Jim in the Heavy D video? I've watched that video. Great coverage. Of course, I don't know what any of these people look like.
It looks like him, but Ty Corbin, who was a local, I think it was Ty Corbin, says that no, that's or it was another person that was called in, says no, it's another local, and he knows the name of the individual. So it looks like him, but the around the neck is wrong. So it with the person local, I'd go with him and say, you know, no, this is somebody else.
So let's go to Friday. I know you and I were messaging back and forth Friday morning. So I postponed the show. As we know, we're doing it now. Let's go through the day and the hearing, what you heard specifically from the federal prosecutor. I'm very interested in that. If there was any defense offered by his team. So what time was court?
Well, first I went to up to Farmington for Chase Venstra, and I get there and find out that it's an electronic appearance. You can't go into a courtroom and watch. And so they say, you know, oh, you need to have a link in order to get in on the telephonic hearing or the video hearing. And so I go outside and I check my my email and I get the link and it won't work for me. I doesn't matter how I touch it, it won't work. And so I go back in, and so it says, well, you can do it on your telephone, and you can listen. You won't be able to see anything. So I did that, and I went outside and I sat on the grass, and they had several cases that they were hearing, and then Chase Venstra came up, and let's see, he is
Now, Chase is a person of interest. And what you told me made my face fall off. Is he a suspect in another homicide? Or how did
well,
this come out?
that's it looked like he was another homicide because of the typographic error on the charging documents for the federal case. So so he's being held on a fugitive from justice case. It's against the law to be a fugitive from another state, and so that's a state charge, but it can go away if the person returns to the jurisdiction where they have the criminal offense pending, and resolve that issue. And they had a defendant on another case prior to Chase that was the situation. And I think one guy they were possibly allowing to go deal with that. So, but not with Chase Venstra. Now, the state said that the state of Montana didn't come to pick him up in the 30 days in which they had to extradite him. Chase Venstra had waived extradition, but Montana never got him, and that since then, while he was being held on the fugitive from justice thing and pending the pickup, the federal charges came down for him and weapons violations. And so the judge says that the state of Montana can file another request for extradition, but I don't see that happening. I think that what happened is you have a case of Box Elder County and the FBI consulting with Montana and saying, we need this guy here. Your charges aren't that serious. We need to keep him here. And Montana going, it's not worth it. So I think that's what happened, and I would be surprised if they filed another request to extradite him, because there's no way that they're giving him up.
That's what it sounds like to me, because they both could be extradited. They have charges in other states, but it's very telling when they won't let the other state have them. Nobody wants to house a criminal. It's expensive. Let the other state have them, but they're keeping them.
Yeah, well, when you've got a somebody who's charged with something, you don't want to go shipping them off to the other state, because the other state might have a case of they messed up and we released the guy accidentally. The paperwork got screwed up, and so he just walked free, and then they're on the run, and you have to find them again. Or they escape like Ted Bundy did. He was in prison for kidnapping Carol Duranch, and there were murder cases that were waiting to have charges filed in Washington and Utah, but Colorado had a strong case, and so they said, okay, we'll let him go to Colorado for the first trial. And he escapes and jumps out of the courtroom window, and a week later he's caught, goes back to a different jail, and he escapes again and goes to Florida, commits more murders. So you don't want to turn your prisoner over to another jurisdiction because you don't know how well they're going to look after the guy.
Right. But these two are in jail, have not been extradited. I have a feeling they're going to be tucked away there for a while. Person of interest and a named suspect. So now let's get to James's hearing. He is the suspect. What was going on with his hearing?
Okay. I got there, and the courtroom is packed. When I went on Tuesday.
Now, was the family there?
Yes.
Okay, obviously, because we saw Candace outside. I just didn't know
Yeah.
anybody else.
I knew that they were going to be there because Marco Ortiz told me that. But so it was kind of like a wedding. You had all of the family on the left side behind the prosecution. You had all of the media people on the right side behind Jim Brenner, and the seats were fairly full, and a little bit of space in between because people are used to this social distancing thing, so they're not squeezed in as tight as they could be. And so I just took the easiest to get to without squeezing past people and let Marcus Ortiz do the squeezing because he's a small guy. And I was seated right behind James Brenner, and he's wearing a faded blue denim prison uniform, and they ask him how he pleads, and he pleads not guilty. The state says that there are more state charges regarding firearms that are pending. And so that goes back to what they had said Tuesday about the grand jury. And when they were doing the grand jury, they would be asking all the questions about Dylan as well.
Wow.
So
okay.
They
Which,
can
of
go
course, you can't be there for that because grand
No.
juries are secret and sealed. Okay.
Yeah, and they can go any direction they want. They can subpoena anyone they want. They can go any direction they want to with the grand jury. So they would have been thoroughly investigating Dylan when they were looking at the state charges. So let's see. The question of bail came up, and the state said that he's got a violent history that's lengthy. He's got charges pending for beating up a 70-year-old guy with an aluminum chair.
What a great guy.
Yeah, and I think that trial is around the 19th. And that was from an incident in 2021. Then there was a previous case, I think it was in 1986, where there was malicious, I can't remember, it's malicious wounding or malicious, an attempted murder, and I guess also a SA, and that the person in question was shot. So, and the defense was saying that, the prosecution is miscategorizing the charges. They are conflating the charges. They are exaggerating. The incident with the malicious wounding and the malicious, attempted murder and so forth. That's all one incident. Well, yeah, but it's one very serious incident which had multiple crimes. So, an extremely, and he only did 1 year of prison for that incident.
Okay, so for those that are just coming in, that wasn't discussed on Friday.
Yes, it was. They
Okay,
were
it was.
discussing why he should be held on bail.
Okay,
Without bail.
I was getting Tuesday and Friday confused because
Okay.
woo, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
All right, so he gets no bail. He's got to sit.
Yeah, so the defense is saying he should get bail. He's really not that bad a guy. He went 10 years, between this offense and that offense, and so, as far as criminal backgrounds go, he's really not that bad.
Oh, get real.
And yeah, and it's like, excuse me, this, I know this, the judge knows this. The charges that they're actually charged with are just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be a whole lot more crimes that they never got caught for. So, yeah, I'm not buying this. He didn't do anything for 10 years. No, he did things. He just didn't get caught.
There was a question in here when you were at court. Did you notice anybody there to support James?
I didn't.
Okay.
No, the family was all on one side, and they huddled together, and they went into one of the attorney rooms after the hearing to talk, and the press waited outside of the courtroom to ask a few questions of the defense attorney and the prosecuting attorney, and then we all went downstairs and waited outside for the family to come out. But let's see. Let's go back to the bail. So the defense attorney, her name is Hanson. I didn't catch her first name. And she says, oh, he's on disability. He's
hang on. James is on disability.
Yes, he is. So
okay, so then that makes it even a little harder to believe he acted alone. That's huge. He's on disability. Forget that he might need to lose some weight, and we'll never know how tall the man is. That's all over the place. I think we've got the age down, and the age doesn't matter because, like I said, when I go to the gym, there's people old enough to be my dad that can whip my ass. Okay, so he's on disability.
Yes, and we've heard that he's working under the table because he's getting paid, for doing X, Y, and Z on various people's farms.
Of course.
So, let's see. They said, they want him to go to, him being described as a squatter is wrong, that he had permission to live there, that he was a caretaker, looking after the place and so forth. And, I'm not buying that.
Maybe at one time he wasn't a squatter. Maybe he was asked to leave. You've worn out your welcome for whatever reason. And that could have ensued the argument, because when you don't leave, you're no longer welcome, and then you are a squatter.
Well, yeah, and then you have realistically, you have to go through an eviction hearing. If he had permission, I would say that he never had permission because, I do eviction cases for my friend all the time. So, somebody who is described as a squatter, if they had a legal right to be there, the proper way to get them out is the eviction hearing. They're not a squatter under the eyes of the law. They are illegally detaining the property, unlawfully detaining the property, I should say. So, so it's a slightly different situation.
So when is James his next hearing?
Yeah, well, the next court date will be on the assault charges from 2021. I think that was on the 19th. I need to double check that.
Now, is it Chase? He has a hearing on the 18th, or are they both on the 19th?
think they were both. Let's see. I need to double check on that. I think I'll need to do some checking, but the 19th is what is coming to mind, and I think that they might both be on the same day.
That's okay.
Let's see. Chase Venstra will be appearing in. Well, they'll be revisiting the extradition question on August 12th. I don't expect anything from that. So let's see. Back to Jim. Let's see. Okay, the defense wanted him to be released to a homeless shelter, and that he wouldn't be anywhere near Lucin or Montello. So in other words, they're going to stick him in Salt Lake City, probably a few miles from my house where the men's shelter is. So, and they're saying that he's motivated to see this these charges through, that he's not going to run away, and you know, that he's eager to
motivated enough to not sit there. He wants to go to the homeless shelter. Who's going to keep an eye on him at the homeless shelter? People come in and out. He'd be gone.
Well, you've also got a lot of shady people through the homeless shelter. So the state turned around and said the homeless shelter is not a viable residence.
Yeah.
That there is little to keep him there, that he, there's nothing to keep him from saying, oh, well, I'm not going home today. I'm gonna go do my own thing. So the judge said, well, in determining whether he goes to custody or not, or stays in custody, got to consider the offense that's charged, the criminal history, the lack of familial ties in the area, and I'm going at this point, no bail. And then they say the danger to the community, the recent past, referring to the pending trial,
Mm-hmm.
And that they need to protect a certain individual from him.
Right.
And so he was denied bail, and that was the end of the hearing, and the fact that they're redacting the information on the evidence regarding this certain person, and that was one of the determining factors in him staying in custody. Who is this person? Part of me says it's Robert Aviles, but Robert Aviles is locked up, so it's not like if Jim was out that he could go do something to Robert Aviles. And the fact that the name is redacted in the stuff, the evidence being turned over, to me that says it's somebody else who
Somebody not named. There's somebody. Well, I mean, let me look at this again. Hang on before I play the clip. All right. The defendant was squatting on property belonging to SH. No idea who that is. And RI. So did Robert and this SH own, I guess they own property right by Dylan. That is adjacent to Dylan Rounds. We know who DR is. Dylan Rounds was reported missing on May 30th, and his whereabouts are unknown. The defendant, meaning James, is known to have had contact with Dylan Rounds and is a suspect in Dylan Rounds' disappearance. So it could be this SH person.
As I understand it, the people who own the property live out of state. I think the Pacific Northwest is, I think that's where. So I don't think it's I don't think it's them. It's somebody from Montello, in my opinion.
I agree with Whispering and Donnie that it's probably Dawn. He was forthcoming about holding the guns, which still blows my mind. Hey, pal, can you hold my guns? I mean, I know there's a kid around here missing. I don't know anything about it, but can you hold my guns? And isn't it always a funny thing that felons, criminals that aren't supposed to have guns, always know how to get them? Always know how to get them. Hands down. Always know how to get them.
I've heard another name crop up a couple of times, possibly being involved, and I was on a panel the other day, and I thought about asking, oh well, what do you think about this mystery person, the redacted person? And I went, no, not going there, because we don't want to put the name out there. If he has a good idea who it is, because their name needs to be protected for a reason. So
I lean towards Don, because Don is the one that spoke to the authorities, and that James had him hold the guns. James obviously not to this information divulged.
well,
he's very his friend right now.
There's a report that there's a fourth person who is involved, who hasn't been named in any podcasts or anything yet. So,
and Don has not talked to anyone, and it's not like people haven't been a hold of him. I don't mean me. Don't go there.
Yeah, no, I mean the name hasn't cropped up in association with the case, so it's a John Doe. We have no idea the name of the person, except one person who has an idea, but they're not divulging. So, and the mother said as basically as much, that they think that there's a fourth person. So,
oh, I'm not gonna be surprised. And what I want to know is the motive. Like you said, we may never know, but I think they're going to put they have to establish some sort of theory. Whether we ever hear it or not, I don't know, but I'm really curious.
I think it's the money. He was boasting about having the $80,000. Now, I hear that all the money has been accounted for, but that doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't the motive, because they might not have been successful in finding where Dylan had the money stashed.
Mm-hmm.
And
we have the hat and the boots too. There's so many strange things.
I've heard that the person in the photo with the hat is not actually James. I don't know if that's true, but there's quite. I mean, we don't know the height, we don't know the weight, we don't know if that's the face. So, so some people have said that's a different person wearing the hat. So, but other people have said they saw him at the gas station wearing the hat. So, is it the identical hat, or is it another hat, which is, same manufacturer, same this, but it's a physically different hat? So, I'm not so concerned about the hat, but if they have the hat, they will do DNA testing on it, and if it comes back with Jim Vestra's DNA and with Dylan's DNA, then we'll have our answer.
Yep. I'm going to take a shot in the dark. I believe it was old Jim that had the hat
on. It's intriguing, and if
it is intriguing.
If that's the case, that's some pretty damning evidence for a trial, for because you can get the DNA because the person's been sweating with the hat on.
And pretty stupid, just like not moving the seat back.
Well, it's a trophy. Criminals like to have something to remind them of the crime, and it's not unusual for them to take a piece of victim's jewelry and to give it to their significant other, and then they see the significant other wearing the jewelry, and it gives them a little bit of thrill to remember the crime. So I think that the hat, if it's same hat, then he took it because it's a trophy.
Let's look at the footage you took from outside the courthouse. Candace had a lot of media there to talk to. It is windy outside, so I'm going to have the closed captions on. If there's something that we can't hear, you're going to have to fill in the gaps for us. Is that okay, Lauren?
Well, I don't necessarily understand it all myself, but yeah, I'll do my best.
We're going to do the best we can.
Yeah.
So this is Candace's reaction to what happened in court.
Yeah. It's in shackles. I mean, you know, he's detained and they're going to keep the heat on him. So that's what we need. Knowing he's not going to get out there. That's.
What did you make of his criminal history when you heard it?
I didn't really know it, to be honest, because it wasn't from around here. And it is an extreme, violent, explosive history, and it's a long span. I mean, they tried to make his argument that there was some really bad charge back in 1986, and it was over 30 years ago, but then it just continues on every 5, 10 years, 15 years. He completes his sentence and is good for a little bit, and then it's right back to the same behavior.
And then, was that your first time seeing him? And if so,
No.
What was it like seeing him in there?
It honestly, it was a little bit of weight lifted off my shoulders, just knowing, you know, I mean, I knew, but the confirmation that, you know, seeing him having to, you know, I mean, he's not charged with anything with Dylan right now, but, you know, he's going to stay detained, so we can continue working on that and finding out.
Do you think he knows what happened to your son?
I do.
Knowing what you just learned today and that your family, I mean, you guys know James.
Not friends or nothing, but acquaintances. Yeah.
Did you ever meet him before? Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying? What was he doing with Dylan? I mean, was he working for him?
He's just helping off and on. He'd help doing hay out in Arco. He'd help him put together his pivot. Just day work is basically how you could explain it. And out in those small communities, you know, everybody kind of sticks together. And when somebody needs help, everybody pulls together and helps.
Did you recall any conversations with Dylan in terms of what James Brennan was like? Did he show any aggression like that?
No, he just said he was a crazy old man who lived out in the desert. You know, I mean, and that's what you'd expect from any 17-year-old kid at that time when you find somebody living out in the middle of the desert. But nothing that would have ever raised any alarm.
Now explain where his boots were found and where James was squatting.
So his boots were found right almost directly behind James's trailer, probably about 150 yards behind that dirt mound. That dirt mound was right behind where James's trailer was.
Now you were out there, were you not?
Yeah. Justin and I were there. We looked at the boots behind the dirt pile when they were first found.
And those boots, when you saw them, were they like buried or were they just left
No,
there?
they were just looked like somebody tossed them out. Just tossed out boots, just thrown out. Didn't look like they'd been there more than a couple days, if that.
What do you think has happened to Dylan?
I think James did something to him. I think he snapped. Especially hearing more of what I hear in court and how that's kind of been how some of his charges have been. I think he snapped at Dylan and he did something to it. And, you know, he spent a whole weekend before we got out there covering it up.
You talk about just the mixed emotions that this probably brings, seeing someone in shackles, like you said, but then also knowing that.
Yeah, it's kind of, you don't want him in shackles. As a parent, you want to go find him yourself. So it's probably a good thing he's in shackles. It's mixed feeling until we know it's hard. I mean, you know, you have emotion, but we need to know. Then we can move forward.
Confident with the work the Fox other authorities and
I am. I'm confident at the approach they're taking and the direction they're going. So.
What did they tell you? What did they say? Because yesterday they mentioned that he was a suspect. And they say that a guy who just needed time since.
Pretty much. I mean, that's what I'm gathering from being a suspect. It's just so
knock you over. All right, so she believes James holds all the answers. She confirms they do know him. Now, how well they know him, they could have been best friends forever. I don't know, but obviously they didn't know him that well. He was known to do odd jobs around. She mentioned haying and things like that, but it wasn't until court, and I believe her, that they did not know he had this criminal history. You can get her frustration. They would keep him in jail for a while, and he would get out and still do the same things. Are you gathering that too, Glorin?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's he's got a lengthy criminal history, and what you see is the tip of the iceberg. So there's a lot more out there that that he might get caught for. So,
and this whole process could take a very, very long time.
Yes, the judge set a trial date on the weapons charge for September 12th. That I would be extremely shocked if the trial happened then, because you have continuances so that the defense can develop the case, and you look at the federal, or the not the state charges for assault. The 70-year-old guy who got beaten with the aluminum chair, that was in 2021, and the trial is coming up here in July. I don't know what month it was on the assault charges, but that's 7 months of this year, and so the chances of 2 months and then going to trial for the weapons charges, no, I don't see that happening. So expect some continuances.
It's just, the whole thing is just so senseless, and this lunatic with a terrible history. Like she said, he's behind bars, he gets out, he does it again, which, hey, that's the law. If you serve your time, they have to let you out. There's only a few crimes that they can keep you forever. But I mean, good tabs were not kept on him, and that is for sure. But like you said, Gloria, I totally agree with you. This is going to take a long time.
Chances are they won't ever get around to the federal charges, because they'll probably have him with the with homicide charges before then, and they'll kind of sit and see how things go.
Good, because piss on his guns. What's important is Dylan.
Yeah.
What happened to Dylan?
Well, the
where's he at? That would be even better.
Yeah. So, of course, saying, we'll go easy on you we'll dismiss the things if you give them. What they do is they say, we'll take death penalty off the table. We'll drop the federal weapons charges. If you give, you plead guilty, you give us where he lives. Now, there's an interesting thing. If for some reason it was a lesser charge, let's say manslaughter, and he's eligible for, it's time to get out of jail, he's served his time. No, that doesn't happen in Utah now. If you have somebody who is in jail for a homicide or manslaughter and there is no body, they cannot get out of jail until they make a good faith effort with law enforcement to find that body.
And it's always seemed odd to me, like you said, they could say, we'll make these federal charges go away. I mean, shaving 33 months off, I don't think it's really going to matter to this dude, because I think somewhere in his criminal mind, he knows this was the last rodeo.
Well, given his age, he's looking at life, whether or not, they say 20 years, given his weight and so forth, the fact that he's on disability, I don't see him getting out, if it's 20, 25 years. So, he's looking at the rest of his life behind bars at this point. And Utah's a brand new state-of-the-art prison that they just opened.
Oh boy.
So on the shores of the Great Salt Lake.
Ooh, Jim. Moving up.
Yeah, sorry, it's always in my face.
You guys ready? Yes. What's Box Elder telling you about this guy? Are you convinced? Are they telling you that he's the guy?
They're telling us the same thing they're telling everybody else in the press releases, is that he's the suspect. He's the main suspect, but I think all the other cards are holding close for reasons that we can all understand. I don't know. I do know some that media doesn't know, but honestly, it's not a lot. But from the day one this began, gut feeling was Jim had something to do with it, and just everything got crazy. And then as we progressed, everything's led us right back to where Dylan parked that gray truck and his boots were found. Everything's taken us right back to day one.
And that's where James also.
Correct. That's where he squatched. Yes.
Are you hearing that when I speak to Box Elder, they're saying not any closer to actually knowing where Dylan is? Is that what you're hearing?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't spoken with Box Elder directly probably for 2 weeks. I've been in contact with the FBI, but I get a daily update on an email, but I have not actually had a phone call or.
Can you share their update tonight then?
I don't. It's like right on my email, on my phone, but it's all the updates been on is the search party, where they've searched and continue looking. So I don't have anything from them.
Are they searching now?
They have deputies out there still browsing around, but we really need a direction. Even they need a direction. We can't just stay out there in the middle of the desert.
Do you think what's key here is breaking Runner down?
Yep, that's going to be our key. That's what we need. Somebody to talk. And when you offer $100,000 in a, I hate to say it, but poor community and nobody talks, that means nobody really knows. That means it was a very tight-knit thing that was done if you offer somebody $100,000, because we've got nothing.
So the key may be to break Runner down.
Correct.
He has the answers.
He has the answers.
Any last thoughts on we're almost 6 weeks into when he was last heard?
Yeah, no, I still just want everybody to stick with the facts, and we're getting some stuff moving forward, and keep looking forward to getting the answers and to bring Dylan home. So
One question I just thought, a lot of these web sleuths, YouTubes and such, they were on a different trail.
yeah,
The Runner was like under the radar. I mean, what
Right.
I tell you,
they're absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that is my honest opinion about them now. I used the internet to get the word out because we had to. I never knew anything like this existed out there. I really didn't. But they're all on the wrong path. They're not listening to facts. They're not listening to the family. They're using it to get their hits and try to make their money off of YouTube. And it's absolutely disgusting.
Now, I don't know who she's talking about. I can think of one channel in particular.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand her frustration with a couple of channels. What I have seen is everybody is looking at the facts. Of course, there was a time when we had to acknowledge what the PI was saying. I basically said either they're going to have to come out and say all of this has been looked at and it's nothing, or the speculation will continue. That's basically the stance that I took on it. I think that one day Candace is going to reevaluate those statements, and I'll tell you why. Because there are many, many, many missing people, adults, missing children that don't get 1/5 of the attention as the case of Dylan Rounds has. I mean, in a way, the PI helped a little bit, because while he had the side circus going of all this gossip and everything, the police could do the actual work, not really be bothered too much. It's like, oh, everybody's looking here, so that's good because we're doing this. So, I mean, I look at, sorry, I'm getting tongue tied. Michaela Jones, her family would love, even if it's misinformation, even if it's gossip, they would love to have this help. Brandy Neal begged and begged and begged and begged for months. Her little boy is missing. The family of Mark Fullerton, the sheriff's department will not consider this anything except for just a guy that wanted to not be at home anymore. And that's been over 2 years. When especially an adult is missing, it's very hard to get the media's attention.
Yeah, because there's too many cases where the person is just wandered off, wants to start make a fresh start somewhere. So
we have that right here. My hometown, a guy went missing a week or so ago. And, the family, they said, no. He would never just disappear. He wouldn't leave his job. He wouldn't leave his dogs. They said, okay. They open an investigation, as they should. I'm not saying anything wrong. Then it comes out yesterday. He's been found safe in another state. He moved. So I think she will reevaluate this someday. I really do. When it'll never calm down because, her son disappeared. We don't know what happened. I think she will reevaluate it if she realizes the amount of people that would do anything to come out of court and have the media standing there wanting to talk to them, as opposed to them sending email after email after email. Somebody help me. Go into whatever YouTube channel that'll talk to them.
We've got a young man who is missing from my community, and his car was found, let's see, I think up a small, probably not incorporated spot along I-80 on the way to Evanston. And aside from, a few, I think one news story announcing, that he was missing, and another update on there's a $50,000 reward. There's been nothing on him. This is a 30-year-old kid, and nothing since June 5th when he left his apartment. Oh, and the license plate's been removed. So,
well, like the case of Mark Fullerton, they are treating this that he just wanted a new life. He has children back there. Even though, there's a lot pointing to a crime scene, and they have written it off. He wanted to go. He's an adult. He can do that. And like Steve said, it's not like law enforcement was interested in this case in the beginning either. He's 19. He was sick of being out on the farm. He probably found a girlfriend. He wandered off somewhere. He'll pop back up. I don't know the discussion exactly. And social media started talking about Dylan. Mainstream media. I don't mean NBC, CBS, ABC, but especially local in that area. Nate Eaton did a great job bringing this to the forefront. So it's
Nate Marcus has done several pieces. Pat Reevy from KSL. They've been nosing around. I exchanged a lot of messages with Marcus Ortiz, and he's the one that tipped me off about the hearing on Tuesday, and it was only like a couple of hours before, so it's like I had to scramble to get there, and the old courthouse is next to where it was, and I got there, and there's fences all around the building, and they're renovating. And I'm going, what's going on? So I call the court and they say, oh, we're next door. So I have to scramble down one more block to get in. And I get in a few minutes late because, it's already in progress. And so, I wouldn't have known about the hearing if he hadn't, sent me that message. So, I was very appreciative of that.
Yeah, I like his work a lot. But
Mhm.
you see what I'm saying, that when a child is missing, or an adult, now children obviously get the more attention, as
Yeah.
they should, but there's some children you don't even know that they're missing. Hell, there's people in Tennessee that are like, who is Summer Wells? They don't even know.
Yeah, you get
There's people in New Hampshire. Well, New Hampshire, they better know about Harmony now.
which is that little girl that was missing for 2 years and nobody ever said anything?
Yeah, her dad's in jail. I got to do another
Yeah.
show about her this week. Got notes everywhere. Got notes everywhere.
Yeah, so nobody said, hey, we haven't seen their little girl, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, some cases capture the imagination and some don't, and it's hard to say why. We know with Summer it's probably largely because she's a cute little girl living in deplorable conditions with parents who are addicts and doing irresponsible things and making a spectacle of themselves, not making any effort to search for their daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that's so striking in this case, because you've got Candace and you've got Candace, and you just look at the complete difference. You've got
Oh yeah, that's a mess.
motivated
That's a
mother.
mess and a half. I've been covering that since June 16th.
Yeah.
God, I mean, I feel bad for some people, especially when they come in new to Discord and they come into that room, because we got rooms for everything, and they're like, I don't get it. And I'm like, let me clear some time and we'll have to talk on the phone about that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that one is.
I go back to Gabby Petito, where it was such an outrage. Should be for a lot of parents. If I was a parent, I'd be very upset. Very upset. This is not your entertainment. This is not what grabs your gut. This is my child who is missing. And when Gabby Petito's father and the media, like idiots, said to him, there's such an outrage. Why is she getting all this attention? And he fired right back. That's on you guys.
Yeah.
That's on you guys. That's not. And Candace and Justin, I mean, they rattled the cages. They got Dylan's information out there. FBI got involved. There is a suspect. There is a person of interest. So it did work in their favor.
Well,
that is a good thing.
And she went to social media. They weren't getting the kind of help that they felt that was needed, that Box Elder wasn't taking the case very seriously. They're, looks like initially they're thinking, well, the kid just wandered off and decided to go off and have an adventure instead. And it's, from all the reports we're hearing, that seems to be how it is out in that it's the extreme opposite end of the county to the county seat. And the two population centers are Tremont and Brigham City, and both of those are 2 hours plus away from where Lucin is. And so it takes a long time for them to drive out there, and if somebody calls on something, usually by that time whoever's done something is going to have run off, and it's going to be 4 hours of drive time for nothing, because the situation's resolved, or the person that they're after is long gone. So, I can understand a little bit, from the difficulties from law enforcement's perspective, but
Mhm.
you know,
Oh, no, I
they,
totally see. And
they
Sherry says, why do people get PIs? That is a huge question. Okay, so if, let's say, an adult goes missing, law enforcement is like, look, could have met a girlfriend, could have met a boyfriend, da 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 da. You may say they'd never leave their job, leave their kids, leave their home, but that, we don't know. Adults can go missing. We don't see anything, any foul play or anything. Maybe they'll show back up. I don't know. A PI will go track them down. When there is a criminal ongoing investigation, I've never understood getting a PI. They can't get warrants. They can't collect evidence. And if they do happen to come across something, they can't really process it. So, I mean, I really kind of think it's just all the help they can get, not realizing how it really works.
I think it's kind of generating other tips to pass on to the police. I agree. There's probably not much point to a PI in most cases. If
Especially when you have your state agency involved, like here we call it the OSBI, Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. FBI, when they've joined ranks, you don't need anybody else.
Not really. Yeah, and that's one thing is she went on social media. She was on Duty Run. She was on the Lab. She was on I don't remember who all else, but and that kind of started getting some attention, and the next thing we know, the FBI is in on the case, and then things really start moving once the FBI is there. So to me, it's really moving fast at this point. I see criminal charges, being lodged soon, and hopefully we'll have a body. I don't know. It's really problematic. It's always been said that there's more bodies in the West Desert, per square mile than anywhere in the United States, because it's so open that people go out there to dump bodies. Um, I think that he's most likely dumped down a mine shaft. There's 277 mines in the Box Elder counties. Some of them are over on the Brigham City side. A lot of them are over on the Nevada side. Then you've got a lot more mines across the state line in Nevada. And I say likely to be down a mine because you had the much publicized Susan Powell case. Josh
I go back
Powell.
to that with this one.
Hmm?
Yeah, it reminds me. The case doesn't remind me of Dylan. I mean, Susan Powell and Dylan, I don't see similarities there except for where they went missing.
Well, the environment. Josh Powell made a stupid comment at a company dinner, that these criminals are really dumb. They get caught because they don't do a good job of hiding the body. If I were gonna hide a body, I would drop it down a mine, and then I would do stuff to the top of it to make the mine collapse. And so
And that's probably what he did, because all these years and they cannot find Susan Powell.
Yeah, and so he goes off camping on the night when there is a major blizzard. There was like 12 plus inches of snow on the ground. He chooses that night of all nights to go camping out at Simpson Springs on the old Pony Express Trail, and that's close to dirt roads which lead down towards the Tintic mining district.
Mm-hmm.
And and Eureka is kind of the biggest of the towns down there of the old mining district. And I went out there years ago with my friend on Memorial Day so that they could tend the graves of great grandmother there. And it's a very curious cemetery. Part of it's active and part of it looks like something out of a Stephen King movie. You know, you've got sagebrush growing in the cemetery, and you've got old graves where the old wooden coffin has collapsed because the wood is rotted away, and so you get the ground sunken in, and sometimes you can actually see, you know, several feet down into the grave and see an open space, you know, a void where the coffin, part of it still holding the dirt away. And I went, you know, that's a great place to hide a body. You find a collapsed grave, you put a new addition in, you don't have to dig the hole out to put them in. You've got less effort, and you've got the smell of decomposition if the cadaver dogs ever come around. And so, you know.
And the dogs have been, I can't say all over out there, but that's a big question. Were canines used? And they've said, yes, they use canines.
Yes.
Craig says he could be buried under a pile of rocks, completely covered. Jay, I put Jay's comment on the screen. A big thing in the first weeks. I remember this. Brenner and the others were said to be strangers in the desert, when in fact, Dylan was deeply interwoven with them. He knows these people. I'm not saying he's best friends and they had barbecues together by the camper. He knew him. I mean, his parents know James Brenner.
Yeah.
Not saying it's their fault. I'm not saying it's their fault at all.
Yeah.
They knew him.
Yeah. Back to the mines. So we all know how much publicity Susan Powell being dropped down the mine got, and how that ended up. Then you have a couple of kids out of Eureka who go missing, and they're missing for months. Nobody can find them. Their Jeep is found somewhere where it shouldn't be, and eventually this woman comes forward, and she was present when they were murdered. The kids came out. They were high school kids. They came out to her place in Monmouth, and which is an old mining ghost town. And I guess they were there, and her boyfriend, I think Jared Baum, came home and found Riley Powell and Breezy Otterson visiting, and she thinks that they are, you know, that the girlfriend is having an affair or something, and so he goes spare, and he drives them all out to this other mine. There's another mine ghost town that's north of there, and I think he slits their throats. First, the boy, drops him down the mine. Then he kills her, drops her down the mine. And the girlfriend doesn't dare say anything because she's scared of him. And yeah. And so eventually she comes forward, gives them the evidence. They go out, they find the bodies. And so they just had the murder trial for Jared Baum. I think it was in April. And he was convicted on those charges. And so that was a big news story. So everybody's thinking bodies down mine shafts again. And then Dylan goes missing. So you've got two big cases where bodies get dropped down by mines, and it's just been brought to the forefront again. So I think that, you know, the mines were most likely found.
I just have a hard time believing between, I believe the date that they believe that Dylan went missing was May 28th. up until when he was interviewed first by the FBI, which was June 6th, I believe, that he made no mention to anybody, not a confession, but something, some little something that can tell them.
Well, redacted witness.
That could be the one. That could be the one.
We've got the three names that we know. We've got a possible fourth, which has been talked about, and possibly somebody else who's tied to them, which they girlfriends, other people which are close associates who get special tidbits of information. They may
could
not
very well just not say a word. Don't want to get involved. That's their job. They'll figure it out. It's common.
Yeah. So, it feels to me like things, this isn't going to be a case like Summer where we're, coming up on 13 months and still no answers. I think, this is going to be resolved very soon.
Oh, this is unwinding very fast, very fast. I understand the mother's frustration, the father's frustration, and I think that their frustration lies with who is responsible for their son's disappearance. And I agree with Kat, not Cat O, but Cat, the new Cat. By the way, we have a lot of new people in here. Take a second, hit the sub button, give it a like, and hit that reminder. I hear all the time from people saying, I didn't get my notification. I don't know what goes on. YouTube is just crazy. But I get their frustration. I think their frustration is with who did it. And here we are, not 2 months later, which is fast. That's fast, guys. That they have a suspect in custody and a person of interest. Sherry, what's your question? Sherry said, someone please answer me. What's your question? Let me scroll up. Was it the paternal grandfather or maternal grandfather who deeded the land? I understood it was the paternal grandfather.
Yes, that's my understanding too, because I understand that Candace wasn't aware that they had even done this. So I think her parents wouldn't go buying a farm for him without her being aware of it.
No. Nope. And more is going to come out. We're going to continue to cover on this channel amongst all the other cases that we cover. Glorin, it is always a huge treat for you to come up. Appreciate your insight, that you go in person to these hearings, your devotion to this case. Thank you so much, because what you bring to the table is not anything that the news reports, and it's firsthand. You were there.
Well, I've got the luxury of time and they don't. So, they
And location.
Yeah. Well, the local reporters, they've got the location, but they've got 2 minutes to do something, and so they can't really go into the details that and reporters rely on social media for getting information, for we need to go find out more about what this person has to say. So I know Marcos Ortiz is hey, do you have a contact for like Mob Crew, because Mob Crew was out there with the drones, and they talked to the FBI, and so he wanted to ask them questions, and they get leads from social media. My Marcos Ortiz contacted me on the Sherry Black murder because I posted a comment on one of my old high school chums posts, and I guess he's friends with my chum, and so he wanted further information about what I said on that post, and I had all the information that they needed to get deep family background, because I was able to identify the killer as the adopted son of another guy a few years older than us in school, and his adoptive father was trying to get my sister to date him. The younger brother was trying to date me. And so, I see this last name and I go, that sounds very familiar. And I know that the father was living down in Orem when he went up on child P charges. And so I start doing research, and I flagged my friend Dave Colley from KSL and say, hey, I've got a hot tip for you. And so we're scrambling and working on that story, and Marcus catches wind of it. And so I take pity on him and start funneling information to him, and then he's funneling other information back to me, and I'm letting some of it go over to Dave Colley and not telling either of them that the other is getting some information, and helping out both sides, and everybody benefited, because one person discovers this and one person discovers that, and it all comes together.
Well, you certainly helped in this case, because no rumor, no speculation. You have the raw footage of Candace talking outside, whereas the media, they break stuff up, they splice it up into 2-minute sound bites. So hell, you don't really know the gist of it now that you think about it. So we got to hear all of that. Plus, like I said, your eyewitness account of what happened in court on Tuesday and on Friday. So it's very much appreciated.
Yeah. Well, I'm also, I've got the background as a paralegal, and all the teachers in the program were prosecuting attorneys, defense attorneys. There was a judge. There was an administrative law judge, a court clerk. And so we were getting to ask questions of them on a daily basis on big cases. Like, the defense attorney brought in somebody to lecture. He was the defense attorney on a big case. And then the next class in the next hour is the prosecutor on that same case. So we asked for a rebuttal from him. And so it was very interesting to learn about how they go about the process, and prosecution and so forth from the teachers. So the reporters don't necessarily have as complete an understanding of that. So and I just find it thoroughly fascinating.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane, especially when it all comes out in the end, what was going on behind the scenes. It's like, whoa. So, it's all going to come out. They have a suspect, they have a person of interest, and more to come. There could be more people. We don't know. I do foresee charges coming down the pike. Not today, not tomorrow, but in due time. So thank you very much for coming up here, Glorin.
When it breaks, it could happen overnight, because when the Sherry Black case, case was a cold case, and all of a sudden I get a news headline that they're having a press conference regarding the arrest, and it just came completely. There had been nothing on the radar for probably 8 months. So
and I don't think this is a cold case, or going to be, or anywhere near it.
No, this is not going to be cold. So
no, it's nothing like that.
I'd be shocked if we didn't have arrests, by the end of the month.
And we're halfway through the month, almost there, right?
Yeah.
Well, you are the best. I will message you right after this show. Appreciate it so much, guys.
Okay.
Big hand of applause for Glorin D. Ellen. Don't forget to sub to her channel. She's
You can
great.
just call me Glor.
Glor, just call her Glor. Well, I mean, not to mention, logic, common sense, and firsthand account. You were there. There's no mincing it. It's not, this is what I think. You were there. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. We will have a show tomorrow about Summer Wells. Go check out the Discord if you're not already in. Shoot me an email. I'll send you an invite. I like to talk to you guys in between shows, or I'll see you over in the Facebook group. Don't be a stranger. Hit that sub button, give it a like, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Glorin, amazing information as always. Thank you very much.
All righty. Bye-bye.